Hello everybody, this is William Ash again. So in this video, I'm going to get into uh, a little bit of texturing and lighting of our coronavirus. So I'm going to do this all in the shading tab, and there's just so many options for how to shade things in Blender. What shading means is we're just going to add color to our sculpture to make it more interesting. But shading in Blender is, in particular, one of the more complicated things. So, what I'm going to give you are some very simple examples for Blender, but they're probably going to come across as fairly complicated. So, um, just be aware that you might need to pause a video and do some things carefully at some point when we get into texturing because texturing is indeed very complex, and to fully understand all these tools will take you a lot of practice. So moving on, I'm going to hop into the shading tab now that I have my virus that I want to texture. When I look at my virus, I notice it's just white. Okay, there's no texture on it. And right now I'm in the material view. This tells me what my texture that I'm creating in my nodes is going to look like. And right now, there's nothing in there except for a base color. So explaining all of this is really, really intense, but I'll try to break it down as simple as I can. So each of these little areas here are basically variables for our shader, and we get to tweak all of these different things. And we can actually connect different nodes to these variables to adjust their values. And we can link these things together to create very complex shading programs, really, that create whatever we want. And you can combine some of the methods I'm going to show you with different types of masks that you can brush on in the viewport using this thing called texture painting. But I will be probably talking about texture painting at a later point. Right now, what I'd like to do is just show you how to add some color, some random interesting colors to these, just to make them pop a little bit. And also I would like to introduce to you the idea of ambient occlusion, so we can add some cool um, non-photorealistic effects that'll make our viruses look like they're glowing from the cracks. Which I think looks really good. So let's get started here. First, to manage color, you're going to be plugging things into here where it says base color. And so to do that, you need to add a node. So you go add, and then we're going to select from color a mix RGB. And what mix RGB does is you pick two colors, and then you can create a mask which will distribute that color over your model. So I'm just going to plug it in. And I'm going to start with a very simple example. I'm going to start with black and white. Right now the whole thing is white, and that's because of this slider here. If I slide it all the way to the left, I get the sculpture black. Go to the right, it's white. And everywhere in between is gray. Now, you might say, well, Ash, that's not black. What's with all the color on it? Well, that's because I'm getting light from the scene reflecting on it. So that's actually another channel or variable in our shader setup. It is roughness. Okay, we're going to take this roughness value, and when I move it as high as it goes, you'll notice it's not shiny anymore. Okay, roughness is about how shiny your model is, and you don't want your model to be shiny unless there's like a liquid or something that'd be so smooth that it would be reflecting. So I'm just going to keep the roughness down for now, and that gets rid of that it looking so pale, from the light reflecting on it. But you can see I just kind of had the virus from the previous video, and I just sort of drew some lines on it to give it some texture. Okay. So to make this more interesting, it would be nice if some parts were white and some parts are black, and the way we do that is using a mask. And I'm going to assign a mask from the node under texture, and I'm going to pick a Musgrave texture. Again, that's under Add, Textures, Musgrave texture. Now, this is a procedural texture. It uses a whole bunch of math to design a repeating pattern that goes on infinitely in any directions. You just think of it like wallpaper, okay? Let's just make any sized amount of wallpaper we want. That's all this node does. And I can take this node and I can plug it right into my base color if I want, and then I get an idea of what this mask is going to do. It's going to pick parts of my model and assign them a value of 1, and some of them are going to be assigned a value of 0. The sections that are white are 1, the sections that are black are 0. And what I want to do is change this so that these blobs are smaller. So I'm going to change the scale here and just turn it up. And now I get a bunch of regions of black and white. That's just going to give me that cool pattern that I want. You can change these values as well. They all do different things. Um, I could go into more detail on that, but I don't know if that's a good use of my time. Okay. So anyways, this is the, the idea. You just play around with these and do whatever you like, whatever it looks right, okay? Now I'm going to plug my color node back in, and now I'm going to plug that mask into the factor, and now it looks just the same as when I plugged it in directly, but instead of black, I can use any two colors that I want, and I can do like interesting things, and I'll have spots or whatever. Okay, so just like that, I added some variety here. Now, let's say, okay, Ash, that's great. You got two colors. I want more colors than that. Well, that's not a problem. All you need to do is nest this a little bit, okay? So right now we only have these. Well, let's add in another mix RGB over here. And then I could even go from the color menu and get a mix RGB node. And then under this, I'm going to set it to, these are all different settings for how you can blend things together, sort of like Photoshop layers. But I'm going to put this one on that side, this one on this side, and now I can switch between this color and that color, and you could do cool things like color dodge or screen. Those just affect how the math works. Just overlay. I think mix is good though. I like mix. Okay, so right now this one's just white though, so I need to change that. So I need another one of these Musgrave texture nodes. You can Control C, Control V, and I think it copies it. Yeah. Or you can Shift D to duplicate it. That's just complicated. I'm going to change the scale to something smaller, that 5 number. Remember how that just gave us these big chunks? Well, what I'm going to do is take these big chunks and I'm going to say, okay, the white chunks will be this color scheme, the black chunks will be the other color scheme. So I'm going to plug this factor into here, and then this into here. Now what we get is two different textures on top of each other, right? We got the green blue here, and then we got this one. And I'm just going to put some red and some purple. Ooh, that's gross. Okay, so I'm just adding color that way. So you can do as many of these as you want. I think simple like this looks pretty good. I get some contrast in the color. It looks good. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to play with that reflection, how the reflectivity of it, right? Because I don't want it all to be just boring. So what I want to do is take this noodle here, copy it, and I'm going to plug that into roughness. When I do that, it just looks kind of bad, right? It's just overall too shiny. It's too much. I need to check that a little bit. And the way I do that, there's actually very many different ways to do it. You can make that particular map just, you can just, like, because this is what the roughness map looks like. I could just do a lightness and I could just make everything look dimmer. That's one option. So I'm going to try that. Add color bright contrast, brightness contrast node. Just do something like that. Increase the contrast, decrease the contrast. Let's say I want it to act on the whole model, or let's say I just want pockets of reflectivity. I can do that, and now it's just flex. You see, it's not like going to make the whole thing shiny. So I can take this, plug it into roughness, and now I get more sporadic shiny bits instead of it being crazy shiny. So there, I got a very shiny, colorful coronavirus. So in the next video, I'm going to explain how to get these things to light up. That's kind of a separate section to this tree that we're building here. So I'm going to leave this video at that, and thank you for watching. Hope you catch the next one.